Welcome back to English classes. Today we are going to discuss the first lesson from the supplementary textbook It So Happened. The name of the lesson is How the Camel Got His Hump. It is written by Rudyard Kipling. Have you heard of Rudyard Kipling?
Joseph Rudyard Kipling was born on 30th December 1865 in Bombay in British India, and he died on 18th January 1936 in England. He is a short story writer, novelist, poet, as well as a journalist. He is very famous for his short stories, novels, children's literature, poetry, travel literature, and science fiction. His notable works are The Jungle Book, Just So Stories, Kim, Captain Courageous, If, Gangadin, The White Man's Burden. He had got Nobel Prize in Literature in the year 1907. Now we are going to read a story written by Rudyard Kipling from his notable work Just So Stories. In the beginning, when the world was new and the animals were just beginning to work for man, there was a camel, and he lived in the middle of a howling desert because he did not want to work. He ate sticks and thorns and prickles, and when anybody spoke to him, he said, "Humph!" just humph, and no more. Presently, the horse came to him on Monday morning with a saddle on his back and said, "Camel, oh camel, come out and trot like the rest of us." "Humph!" said the camel, and the horse went away and told the man. Presently, the dog came to him with a stick in his mouth and said, "Camel, oh camel, come and fetch and carry like the rest of us." "Humph!" said the camel, and the dog went away and told the man. Presently, the ox came to him with the yoke on his neck and said, "Camel, oh camel, come and plow like the rest of us." "Humph!" said the camel, and the ox went away and told the man. At the end of the day, the man called the horse and the dog and the ox together and said, "Three, oh three, I am very sorry for you, but that humph thing in the desert can't work, or he would have been here by now. So I am going to leave him alone, and you must work double time to make up for it." That made the three very angry, and they held a panchayat on the edge of the desert, and the camel came chewing cud and laughed at them. Then he said, "Humph!" and went away again. Presently, there came along the jinn who was in charge of all deserts, rolling in a cloud of dust. "Jinn of all deserts," said the horse, "is it right for anyone to be idle?" "Certainly not," said the jinn. "Well," said the horse, "there is a thing in the middle of your desert with a long neck and long legs, and he hasn't done a stroke of work since Monday morning. He won't trot." "Phew! That's my camel," said the jinn, whistling. "What does he say about it?" "He says, 'Humph!' and he won't plow," said the ox. "Very good," said the jinn. "I will humph him if you will kindly wait a minute." The jinn rolled himself up in his dust cloak and took a walk across the desert and found the camel looking at his own reflection in a pool of water. "My friend," said the jinn, "what's this I hear of your doing no work?" The jinn sat down with his chin in his hand, while the camel looked at his own reflection in the pool of water. "You have given the tree extra work ever since Monday morning, all on account of your idleness," said the Jinn, and he went on thinking with his chin in his hand. "Humph!" said the camel. "I shouldn't say that again if I were you," said the Jinn. "You might say it once too often. I want you to work." And the camel said, "Humph!" again. But no sooner had he said it than he saw his back that he was so proud of puffing up into a great big hump. "Do you see that?" said the Jinn. "That's your very own hump that you have brought upon your very own self by not working. Today is Thursday, and you have done no work since Monday, when the work began. Now you are going to work." "How can I?" said the camel, "with his hump on my back?" "That has a purpose," said the Jinn. "All because you missed those 3 days, you will be able to work now for 3 days without eating, because you can live on your hump. And don't you ever say, 'I never did anything for you.' Come out of the desert and go to the tree and behave." And the camel went away to join the tree. And from that day to this, the camel always wears a hump. We call it hump now, not to hurt his feelings. But he has never yet caught up with the 3 days that he missed at the beginning of the world, and he has never yet learned how to behave.
How the Camel Got His Hump is a story from Rudyard Kipling's collection called Just So Stories. This story is set in Arabia when the world was new and the camel didn't have any hump. It is a time when the man was just beginning to learn the art of domesticating animals. There was a camel that lived in the middle of the desert. The camel was so lazy that he didn't want to work. That's why he lived in the middle of the desert. And when someone talked to him, he would just say, "Humph." The horse, the dog, and the ox came to him and asked him to work like them. That time also, he just said, "Humph." They went back and complained it to the man. The man told that since the camel was not doing any work, they three have to do double work. That made them angry. They held a panchayat on the edge of the desert and complained it to Jinn. The Jinn promised that he will look into the matter and teach the camel a lesson. He went in search of the camel, and he found the camel looking at his own reflection in a pool of water. Jinn told that since he was lazy, those 3 animals have to do double time work. That's not fair. That time also, the camel just said, "Humph." And all on a sudden, when he looked his back, he found that the back was puffed up into a hump. The Jinn said that the hump was a result of his laziness. Since he didn't do any work for the last 3 days, the hump had come on his back. And there is a use for this hump also. So using this hump, this camel can work for days, several days without any food and water. That's how the camel got his hump. Dear story, Rudyard Kipling brings out the theme of laziness very effectively. The main idea here is to make us understand the importance of hard work. Laziness will never lead us to success. In fact, if we avoid doing work today, it will lead to piling up a lot more than what we can do. That's the moral of this lesson. Now we can discuss some questions given as comprehension check in your textbooks.
First question, what tasks do you think were assigned to the dog and the ox? The dog was assigned the task of fetching and carrying sticks, while the ox was assigned the task of plowing. Second question, why did the camel live in the middle of the desert? The camel lived in the middle of the desert because it did not want to work. It ate sticks, thorns and prickles, and when anybody spoke to it, it said hump and nothing more. Third question, what made the dog, the horse and the ox very angry? The man told the dog, the horse and the ox that since the camel cannot work, he would leave it alone and the three of them would have to work double time to make up for the work not done by the camel. That made the three of them very angry. Fourth question, how did the jinn know the horse was complaining against the camel? The jinn knew that the horse was complaining against the camel because he was in charge of all deserts and knew about everything happening in relation to his deserts. Now, fifth question, the camel was looking at his own reflection in the pool. What does it suggest to you about the camel? The camel's looking at his own reflection in the pool shows that he was proud of his appearance, especially his back. He liked admiring himself. Now, the sixth question. The camel said, humph, repeatedly. How did it affect him? When the camel said humph repeatedly, despite the jinn's warning, his back puffed up into a big hump. Next question. What according to jinn was the use of the hump? The jinn assured the camel that his hump would not create a problem for him while doing work. Since the camel had skipped work for 3 days, he would live on his hump and would be able to work for 3 days without eating. This means that the hump was a kind of food reserve. Now the last question. He has never yet learned to behave. In the light of this, what is the writer's opinion about the camel? According to the writer, the camel is still a very lazy animal, that is unwilling to work. After he got the hump, the jinn asked him to go out of the desert to help the other 3 animals. It seems that the camel still did not behave himself and worked lazily in the desert itself. It is for this reason that he was still unable to complete the pending work of those 3 missed days, and he continued carrying the hump and still living in the desert. Okay?
It's a very simple lesson. No more explanation is needed. So read it several times. Write the comprehension check questions in your notes and write the moral of the lesson also along with it and send it to your concerned teachers. Bye.